Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War live battlecast. In this particular game, we are going to play the Empire with VOLKMAR the Grim as our leader. So we're definitely going to play a Crusade-themed game. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. So I know I've done a few in the past, but they're always a good time. But it looks like my opponent already locked in, so I gotta go ahead and hurry up. And why not? We're already purging heresy, so let's bring a Witch Hunter while we're at it. Give him a nice, lovely combination of potions here. So got to work out our main army, and of course it is a Crusade-themed army, guys. So we have to get the flagellants. So we're gonna get bunch of flagellants. We're also going to get some great swords, of course, to back them up, because again, alone they're definitely a bit of a liability there. We're going to get the Royal Altdorf Griffites just to kind of handle business in my wings there. And let's see, I should probably bring, do I want to bring the Hammer of the Witches? I feel like I have to. If we're kind of going down this path, it's just going to be the way of things, I suppose. God, this army is just so junky. Oh man, let's see if we can make it work, guys. At least I have a Lord of Magic. The Warrior Priest here is probably not a good investment at all. An Empire Captain would probably be a little bit better, but, you know, maybe the Accusation will catch my opponent off guard. We'll see. And, you know, Flagellants are, you know, they do their thing. They're not the best unit in the game, but against, like, Biggins or Orc Boys or, you know, troops that don't have a ton of armor, they can actually do some decent damage with especially the Tattersouls, which are obviously just a souped-up version. And, of course, the Hammer of the Witches is probably not a good investment, considering my army composition, because I suppose I don't have a lot to protect it with, but the Royal Altdorf Griffites are pretty darn strong. Like they cause terror, so even against like Orc Boy Biggins or other units like that come in, they can get in there, do some serious shock damage, and can often terrify them, and then really run them over from that point. But usually two groups of Orc Boy Biggins can do a pretty good job at counteracting them, especially if you mix in like a Goblin Big Boss or something like that. So we'll see how it pans out. I actually really don't like this map. I don't know why. I mean, I know aesthetically it looks quite cool, and it's just the maps that have like somewhat lopsided, terrain, advancement terrain, I'm not a big fan of. Like, for example, this side actually has a bit of a hill, which is, again, it can be detrimental to some factions, but on that same note, it could also be quite advantageous to some. So, although this side does have like a bit of terrain cover. So if I was like a really aggressive faction like Chaos or Vampire Counts, this is actually really nice because you have all this forest to advance through. And then you're not going to be taking like cannon fire and all that type of stuff. So for me, though, yeah, I suppose it's okay. I can just kind of deploy here in the valley, set up my cannon, get ready to party. So, and I don't have any flying lords with the Crusade army composition, so hopefully that'll work out for me. So let's go ahead and set up our goon squad in the front line and just get the great swords here. And again, I'll probably need more great swords because he's probably going to bring like black orcs and those type of things. But we will put the warrior priest here, and of course VOLKMAR always needs to be with the boys, giving them encouragement and doing work. And I'm gonna have some really strong infantry with VOLKMAR's Grand Hammer of Sigmar, as well as the Cascading Fire Cloak and Flaming Sword of Ruin. It's gonna be pretty strong. So hopefully they can hold up and make up for any lack of quality. So let's just put the Witch Hunter here. Why not? Let's just put them all in one big Zerg ball. It's one of those kind of games, guys. And the cannon we'll probably just put back here, then use the Royal Altdorf Griffites here in group 3. Put these in group 2. Hotkey them, make sure they're ready to party, and yeah, so I got a Witch Hunter, guys. Definitely gonna be fun. Accusation can, if he has like a Grimgor or Azog or someone like that, he's gonna absolutely destroy those guys. But if he does have like the traditional Orc War Boss, the potion can usually not negate, but is pretty good against these type of buffs here. But VOLKMAR, I also did get, I believe it's called the Jade Griffin, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if we can get a look here, but it does replenish the hit points of combatants on himself, which is pretty good. So he does have regeneration, so he's kind of like a mini Lewin. Definitely not as good as King Lewin in my book, but definitely a force to be reckoned with. And against Vampire Cats, he actually does do flame attack, so he synergizes pretty well actually with the Kindle Flame of the Bright Wizard. So just something to consider, guys. So all right, let's go ahead and get our cannon firing at the Black Orcs here. And the Crusade does not run, guys, so we're going to get right down to business. And actually, the cannon, I should probably move it like over here, because the tree line, it's a pretty bad line of sight, but it can probably fire over this hill just fine. So we're going to go ahead and move it there. Let's go ahead and take a look. So he has some Biggins and Black Orcs as we expected. He actually brought some Trolls, so very, very cool. I always like seeing kind of weird picks like that. But the Griffites, I'm going to kind of keep in the back and see where he decides to send his Trolls, because the Griffites do have that anti-large, and they cause terror, so they're really going to rat off the Trolls, to say the least, guys. So the cannon's kind of getting in position. Probably a bad investment this game. I probably should have gone with like the temple off or something a little more ridiculous like that. But let's go ahead and see. So he has some Orc Boars here. We definitely want to start firing at probably some of these Black Orcs. So let's see if I can turn and get like yeah, that's actually a pretty decent angle, that little pocket there. So the Griffites, we're going to pull back. We obviously don't want them going in first, and we're going to advance the rest of the Crusade. So the Orc Boars are coming in over here. So we're going to try and match their ferocity with the Griffites here, and hopefully they'll be able to do pretty well. So we'll also probably detach a Warrior Priest here, which will be pretty decent. So we'll put the Warrior Priest in group 3, so then he'll get in there and tie those guys up, and he'll actually be pretty good there. So we're going to advance here, 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 and here, and thankfully, you know, the Troll's shock damage isn't going to be that pertinent against the Tattersoul, so we're going to go ahead and use VOLKMAR, get him in here, and use his different buffs. All right, so far so good, and we're going to use the Cascading Fire Cloak. And then over here, we're going to use the Flaming Sword of Ruin to really punish those guys. Then we want to get the Witch Hunter back. We definitely don't want him in the front line. He gets a little crazy with his karate kicks in there sometimes, but it looks like he did engage a little bit. But over here, it's going pretty well for me. Definitely doing a lot of damage to my opponent's troops, and this cannon is actually getting some good shots in there, so I can't complain, guys. So VOLKMAR's in here doing quite good, and we want to pull the Sorcerer back, and you can see some of the Trolls routing off, but he does have a lot of troops, actually, so it's going to be tough for me to kind of deal with all that. But the Warrior Priest and company are able to deal with those guys pretty well, but I do probably want to like chase him a little bit more, but honestly, I don't know if I can afford to. So we're going to get him in here, and we're going to get our guy, and we want to find his heroic unit here. So he does have, it looks like an Orc War boss, so we will accuse him and also start targeting him as well. So, man, he has a ton of stuff here. So my cannon's definitely going to get shut down here, but, you know, we're going to do our best here. So we're going to get group 3 and send them over here. We'll also pull the Bright Wizard, use the Cascading Fire Cloak on this big blob in here, and, of course, check VOLKMAR for his buffs, and he's continuing to do a pretty good job, and you can see the Accusation, as well as the Witch Hunter, are doing some pretty good damage. So let's switch the fire from the cannon here, check the Griffites who are going to engage here, and also, let's pull in the Sorcerer. I mean, he has, you know, pretty decent combat stats. We'll get the Warrior Priest here, use the defensive buffs here in conjunction with those units. So far, so good. The Crusade is marching on, guys. Definitely can't complain. The Orc War boss is taking quite a bit of a beating. You can see the Accusation is quite strong, and it still has, you know, pretty long cooldown, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and see. Is he obstructed right now? It looks like he is not, so he's in melee combat. So let's actually pull him out here. Check our Bright Wizard for different buffs, and we're going to want to use that because I am kind of starting to, you know, get worn down in the melee battle. So we're going to pull these forces over here and consolidate them because we don't want them to get caught up in this big Zerg, and we need our forces to be together to really kind of benefit from their strength. So over here, the Griffites, we're able to chase those guys off, so very happy about that. We're going to go after that Orc War boss right now. He does have a lot of, like, you know, relatively low-tier troops. I wouldn't call him that, per se, but let's go ahead here, and we'll put him into melee combat. He's not going to get away at this point, so let's use the Cascading Fire Cloak on the last of our Crusaders over here. So that'll be pretty strong, and the Griffites are going to punish this Orc War boss, and VOLKMAR, of course. So we're going to use our buffs and kind of keep pulling him back, and, of course, the Warrior Priest over here, we can probably get him over here helping out the main battle. So the Hammer, of course, unfortunately did get run down by some Night Goblins, actually, so very well played on my opponent's part, and we got to get this War Boss. That's going to be a big part of winning this battle because my Flagellant numbers are running, you know, a little bit scary, guys. They're getting a little bit low, but let's use the Grand Hammer of Sigmar here, and I still do have some of these guys, but, you know, their leadership's starting to waver a little bit, so definitely a very tough situation to be in. So Accusation will be up shortly. So the Orc War boss is still in pretty good shape. You know, he's doing a good job holding his own here, but we're going to go ahead and, do we need to use the Potion of Toughness? I don't think we do, but we will use Accusation here, which should finish him off. The Great Swords in here are still steady. VOLKMAR is holding it down. Let's use a Bombardment here, and of course this Warrior Priest, that's a horde of Black Orcs, man. And I wish I had kept that cannon alive, but, you know, again, Night Goblins, guys, I didn't see him coming, so what can you do? So we're going to engage in here, get the Flaming Sword of Ruin, and kind of just have a last stand here while we still have some numbers across the board. We're going to use the Potion of Foolhardiness up here and pull him back. And also, we want to pull back any troops that we may have that are routing off. But the Bombardment's actually going to be pretty good. You can see a lot of the Greenskin units are pretty low, and honestly, I'm probably just going to keep the Demogryph Knights in here. They need to fight, and, you know, terrify, you know. The Black Orcs won't get terrified, but the other units will, so I really need to take advantage of that. So VOLKMAR is still confident. Thankfully, he's doing a pretty good job holding it down in here, and the Griffites are terrifying some of these lower tier units, so that's pretty good value there. But he is switching the Black Orcs here, so I'm actually going to pull these guys out, and I probably should honestly just like start kiting and getting my heroic units out, but it's going to be hard to get my guys out from, you know, this kind of mass here. So we'll use VOLKMAR here and just go ahead and buff him, and kind of let's consolidate our heroic units over here and get the Griffites and just have them start, you know, chasing down some of these units that are a little separated from the main force. So we'll have them get those big ones here and just start picking units off and pulling out. So these guys need to get out of here. It's going to be very, very tough, but I think I still have some great swords here. So we'll get these guys out and check for the bombardment ability, which is going to be pretty good. So thankfully, it looks like I am able to get out. So I'm going to reunify my forces up on the high ground here. Let's degroup them so they won't move awkwardly, and we'll get on the high ground. You can see the Griffites getting in there and doing some serious damage to these guys. And I think my cannon is just completely shut off. So yeah, the Griffites should be able to rout off those trolls very quickly. So let's go ahead and get the high ground here and form a little last stand. And it looks like some great swords are also coming back, so very nice. Let's see these Black Orcs. They're a little out of position. We'll pull the Griffites over here and do a nice little burst on them. VOLKMAR also will use his buffs here, which is going to be nice. All right, so far so good. And you can see a lot of those units did get terrified and kind of, I think these guys were actually routed off and then they just came back. So definitely a very, very good situation for me. So continuing to fight using our buffs, our bombardments, and we do have the Cascading Fire Cloak, but to be honest, there's not a lot of troops left here, and even the Warrior Priest came back, so that's pretty sweet. So these Black Orcs are shaken. Next, I'll probably go after these black orcs up here, which are pretty low. And if I can get rid of them, and these darn trolls, guys, they're just giving me a ton of grief here. Let's go ahead and just, you know, let's accuse them. Why not? I don't have much use of it. And accuse actually will do some decent damage here. It's not going to be a complete waste. So we'll use the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, and we're also going to use the Warrior Priest Bombardment and his damage resistance. Get in here, and I honestly, with the terror of the Royal Altdorf Griffites, I should be able to win this, I think. Because a lot of these biggins and other troops are going to get terrified and just routed off, and I have a pretty strong unified presence here, and that Witch Hunter he's actually doing pretty good in melee. Definitely can't complain, guys. So I do have the Cascading Fire Cloak as well as the Flaming Sword of Ruin at my disposal, but definitely going to use the Flaming Sword of Ruin here. And looks like, yeah, a lot of the forces are routing off, so what's left here? Oh, okay, so these guys over here. So his Black Orcs, definitely, you know, they routed and they came back, but this is actually great for me because the biggins are just going to keep getting terrified. I'm not sure if there's like a diminishing returns on that. You guys will have to let me know in the comments below if any of you guys have tested that. So looks like the last group of Black Orcs here is going down, and that may be all she wrote. Man, look at these great swords and like these flagellants and just fighting till the bitter end here. So definitely a very, very cool game. And let's see what he has left here. So he's got some Black Orcs here and Black Orcs here, but that should be it. But oh no, he has some biggins here, but they were just terrified. But yeah, I should be able to finish them off here. So definitely very well played to my opponent. That was a pretty darn fun game. Sigmar's Crusade is definitely one of my favorite army compositions. It's just so much fun to use. It's just a lot of cool units, and I actually really like the Tattersouls. I mean, they may not be the most cost-effective unit, but they fight to the death, that's for sure. So the Griffites were obviously the MVP this game. You guys saw they just kind of methodically took these guys out and did a pretty good job. You know, the Trolls, it was interesting that he didn't bring a Lore of Magic. But, you know, I think I have seen that more often with Beastmen. Where, you know, they'll just bring like 3 Gorbals instead of a Wizard, which makes a little bit more sense. But, you know, not bringing other heroic units aside from the Lord here was decent in the respect that it just made these Black Orcs, like several groups of those. He was able to invest heavily in Trolls and had a ton of biggins, so a very expensive army. But anyways, it was a good game to my opponent, Tunyu Linku. I look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and hope you guys enjoyed Sigmar's Crusade. Have an excellent night, and take care.